Hey, I had to let that song go a little long. It's Matthew Harvey here, the 12 o'clock siren. I got James Hartley on my left.
Hey, everybody, glad to be back. Got Jason Fuller on my left.
What's up, fellas?
Oh, nothing. Just listen to that old fight song.
Yeah, kind of threw me off there for a minute.
Think about that.
I'm excited about this one.
Did you know that was coming?
I didn't know it was coming. No.
Kind of just sneak one in on you.
Yeah, it's good.
The reason we got some special theme music today.
Some pomp and circumstance.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. We've got a special guest, Mr. Shane Fletcher.
Affectionately known as Coach.
Fletch.
Yeah. All right.
What's up, Coach?
How you guys doing today? Thank y'all for having me.
We're doing good. Mr. Shane is Mr. Fletcher is a coach and athletic director at the Leonard High School.
Is that a true statement?
That's true.
All right.
How long you been AD?
13 years athletic director, 15 years head football coach.
Cool.
You've been in Leonard. You've been the AD in Leonard for that long?
Yes, sir.
Oh wow. Cool.
Where were you before Leonard?
I spent a year in Bonham. I spent a year in Leonard as an assistant. I spent a couple years in Howe, and then my first 5 years I spent in Denison.
Oh, okay.
Cool.
You know Greg Nix?
Yep. Know him well.
Yeah, he was. I think he's from Denison.
Basketball coach.
Coach. Yep.
Is he Pottsboro now?
Yeah,
Yep.
He's at Pottsboro. Yep.
I
think we discussed Knicks in the 10.5, didn't we?
We did.
We did when we talked about.
Part of the
I'm not
Peaster.
sure if you're familiar, but back in was it '96? In the Leonard Holiday Tournament, the Leonard varsity boys beat I think the fourth-ranked Peaster, whatever they are, Peaster something or other, for the championship in the Holiday Tournament, and it was a fantastic game, great game. And we had talked about having Coach Wrinkle, who was the boys' coach then, on to talk about that game during this year's Holiday Tournament. So.
That's where that came from.
That's where that came from. We'd been talking about Leonard coaching, and we got to get Fletch on here. We want to hear some football stories.
Yeah,
especially
that what was it, 2013, that run?
Yes, sir.
Is it a state semifinalist?
Yes, sir.
Man,
That
that's
was a great year. That was fun.
I
A lot
bet.
of fun.
Imagine.
First, before we get into that, though, can you just kind of tell us like where you come from and how you came to be here?
Well, I grew up in southwestern Oklahoma, a little town called Anadarko. Went to Southeastern, played football there.
What position?
Offensive line. Graduated from there, and my offensive line coach in college, he had come from Denison. And, it was one of those things. I couldn't get away from the game and couldn't go play at another level, so did the next best thing, became a coach, and started there. He got me a job at Denison, and like I said, I worked my way up there. Started as a junior high coach, paid my dues. And then went to Howe. My best friend got the head coaching job at Howe, and I went over there with him for 2 years, and then came to Leonard for a year, and that was when we ended the losing streak, 26-game losing streak. And then
Who was head coach then?
Gerald James.
Oh, okay.
And then left and went to Bonham as offense coordinator, and had a great year. And then the Leonard job came open, and Brad Conley, a good friend of mine, was a high school principal, and he called me up, and the rest is history. Here we are.
Cool.
Wait, so what year did you come to Leonard then?
Be 04, I believe.
Oh, okay. All right. Yeah, because
It's been so long, it all runs together now.
Oh, yeah.
My brother would have been a senior, junior, I guess.
He was a junior the year I came here, and then
Yeah.
he was a senior that my first football season. I came actually in February,
Oh, okay.
and he ran track for me. And he didn't play football the year before, and I talked him into it. I was his track coach.
You
So.
got some records up there for him, didn't you?
Yeah, he's
Right.
he's a great kid, man. Very fast. He
Yeah.
could run.
Yeah, you could. Still can.
That's what they
Yeah.
say about me.
Yeah.
No, they don't. No.
Funny
That's
story a
who-
few years ago.
Who exactly said that?
Not
I'd like
me
to talk
just
to him.
now.
A few years ago, he challenged a inebriated friend of mine, and also Leonard High School graduate to a foot race
Right.
on a street in McKinney, and
yeah.
it turned out pretty ugly. But Brett won.
Yeah, Brett could run.
It was funny. I'll withhold the name on that one.
I hear you.
That's all right, to protect the innocent.
Yeah, but he still got it.
Yeah. So you were assistant coach here that first year
Yes, sir.
under Coach James.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, and that's when the losing streak stopped, huh?
Yeah, we went over to Anna and beat Anna 21-14, I think it was. And
Probably feel much like the Jets feel right now.
And no doubt, no doubt. It was a pretty fun night, We wasn't supposed to win and went over there and played well and kind of clicked on all cylinders. And
Did the streak carry into that season, or did you
we ended
start
up
the
winning
season
4
that
out of the
way?
last 6, and we missed the playoffs. if we'd have beat White right the last ball game, we would have made the playoffs. And it was a muddy, nasty night, and they had a big fullback that they just fed all night and ended up beating us, I think, 28-14.
They've always been pretty tough.
What is step one to teaching a program that's used to losing how to win a game?
Boy, it's tough, and it was a process. Football IQ. That's the biggest hurdle. When I got here, there wasn't a whole lot of football IQ. Kids didn't watch football, and kids these days still don't watch a lot of football. But that was the toughest hurdle. I hired great coaches. I hired the offense coordinator from Denison. I hired the front seven coordinator from Mineral Wells, and who's still with me. Coach Deal's been with me all 15 years. And you hire great people and let them do the job. And
Trust your coaches.
Try and teach kids the best way to do it. And the key there's a lot of ways to skin a cat, but what you got to do is you got to make the kids believe that that's the best way.
Right.
What we're trying to teach, and and we've been blessed with some really good athletes around here. Over the years, we've been really blessed.
Absolutely.
So it's been a great.
Yeah, I remember coming to watch Will and Reggie and Bubba and those guys. Bubba was all heart, man. He was fun to watch.
It warms my heart. Those kids, they're grown now, and some of them got kids of their own. And heck, I'm coaching one kid now that I coached his dad here.
Oh wow!
Martin Harris's son, and
Martin was a heck of an athlete too.
He came by this window last week.
He's a very good football player, and he's got two boys. One of them's a seventh grader, one's a freshman.
It's in Martin's blood.
Oh, no doubt.
Mitch Harris was a freak too. I mean,
Beast.
It's just in their blood.
What are those early conversations when you're hiring those coaches like? You're like, look, we got some work to do. You don't bring them in blindsided, huh? Like,
no, they knew. Coach Deals, I'd actually worked with his brother in Bonham the year before, and then when I got this job, he said, "Hey, my brother's looking to get closer back to home. He'd really like a shot." And when I interviewed him, I mean, it was just one of those things that, it was like a glove,
right.
and we do everything together. We coach football together, we coach powerlifting together, we coach track together, and we fish together.
Sure,
so,
yeah,
Nice.
yeah, it's more like a brother than an assistant coach now.
Was there? I mean, I know you're always striving, right, for perfection and whatnot. But was there a moment when you felt the gears start turning and like, okay, things are starting to click now? How long did that take?
Well, we my first year here, we were 6-4,
right,
and we had a decent year, missed the playoffs, and then we got thrown into a brutal district with Farmersville and Aubrey and Anna, and they were all growing so fast, and we weren't, and. Farmersville won a state championship that year, and it was tough. And we went 2-8 and 1-9, and then Will's class, the 2009 class, came through, and their junior year we won 7 ball games, and then missed the playoffs by a foot. Literally 1 foot to Tom Bean, and then the next year we kind of broke that door down and made it, and lost in the first round to. Them old boys out there in East Texas, Paul Pewitt, 21-14, and then
was that in Royce City?
In Royce
City.
I
remember. I came to that game. It was cold that night.
It was.
Will had been kind of nursing a nagging knee injury.
He had strained his MCL against Howe week 9, and then we played without him week 10, beat Honeygrove, and then Will was one of those kids. He made his money with his wheels, and he just didn't have them.
Yeah.
And Jake Buchanan was a sophomore that year, and stood in, did a great job, but we missed Will really on defense that night.
Yeah.
He was our safety, and Will could run. So, but and then after that, went on a little stretch, made about playoffs about 7 years in a row, and then 5 years at least 2 rounds deep. So. It's
one
been
thing
good.
I grew up in Leonard, and football is near and dear to my heart. But one thing I admire about your time here is it seems like throughout Leonard's football history beforehand, if we got a good coach in here, he was gone a year or 2 later. And you've been here a while. You've got your program set in place. You got kids buying in. And it seems to put out a pretty consistently good product year after year.
Yeah, it's starting to bear fruit, kind of, so to speak.
Well, and you're going to – I mean, it's a small town, and you're going to have those years,
up and down years.
That that happens.
Sure.
It cycles.
Well,
But
talent matters a lot in high school football.
no doubt, no doubt. And like I said, I got a great coaching staff, and we all get along real well. And they've all been through a lot of wars, and that really helps us. I've got some older coaches, I got some younger coaches, and we play all these prehistoric offenses nowadays. Everybody's going back to the slot T, and if you don't have some old coaches on defense, that's a tough thing to stop. So
Sure.
it's we go from playing a slot T one week to air raid the next.
Right.
Like last week we played Paris Chisholm and they were slot T, and then now we're going to Blue Ridge and Blue Ridge is coming to us and they're air raid. So you got to be very multiple in high school.
Yeah, I mean, it was everybody ran the same thing when we were in school. It was the wishbone, 44 cutback to the left, to the right. That's all we did. We never passed the ball. You guys are in spread formations and you're spreading people out all across the line of scrimmage, and it's interesting to watch. You throw the ball a lot more than we ever did.
Yeah, we try and make it fun, and formations are fun, and that's part of what we do on the weekends. We're going to sit down and try and figure out a formation that's going to put somebody in a bind.
Sure.
And and the kids like that.
Right.
They don't like doing the same thing over and over and over, and our play package isn't huge, but our formation package is.
Sure. Give them different looks.
Yeah.
So go ahead, James.
You've been doing this 15 or 20 years now, and how have you seen the game change, or has it changed?
The game has it's crazy because it does change. We had the fad of everybody running the jet sweep out of the spread, and now it's starting to cycle back to slot T and even folks in the I and power I. But
running fullbacks and
football. Football it cycles. Especially at this level.
Sure.
At the collegiate level and the professional level, no, but in the high school level, yes, it sure does. And it's like when somebody has some success with something like the slot T, then not everybody wants to run.
Everybody does.
Sure.
Yeah.
So, and the thing I like about what we do offensively, we have a lot of wing T concepts with the stuff that we do, and even I concepts. Stuff that I ran when we were at Denison. But we're going to be out of the gun, and we got a pretty good quarterback right now too.
Oh yeah,
he's pretty good.
Who is it?
DJ Brown.
Yeah.
DJ is he's probably a better kid than he is an athlete, and he's an exceptional athlete. He's a good he's a leader too.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
he's a number one rushing quarterback in the state of Texas, all divisions right now.
Oh my gosh,
over 1,500 yards right now. Yeah, he's a stud.
He's really good.
Well, that says, at all divisions, that says something.
Huh. You really need to come watch him play.
Absolutely.
I've watched 2 games this year, and he's a lot of fun to watch. And they all are. They got that Riley Farron. I'm not sure. I don't know him, but after about 2 minutes of the first game I watched this year, I was like, that kid right there is a ball player.
Well, and Riley had a big game. All our tailbacks did. They had a big game Friday night, and it was one of those things, we were just trying to get downhill on these guys, and our tight ends did a great job blocking this week, and our tailbacks Riley ended up with 184 yards this past week. And, when he ran hard and broke tackles, he didn't go down on first contact, and he had a heck of a game.
Go ahead and tell our listeners the score of that game.
62-21. Yeah, it was.
That got a little spicy.
What was the spread?
We were favored by 9. We were favored by 9. We came out and, we're still a very young football team. We start a bunch of sophomores, and we have six seniors that play considerably a lot. And we came out and we lost a toss, and they wanted to kick to us, so we drove down and scored about 5 plays, and then we made them punt, and they snap it over the punter's head, and then we get the ball on the 15-yard line and score in 1 play. So it's 14-0, just real quick.
Right off the gun, yeah.
And then we forced a turnover. We did a great job defensively running to the football, gang tackling, and forcing turnovers. We ended up getting 4 turnovers, which all turned into points. So it was a good night. It was 43-0 at half, and it was something I didn't expect. I thought, that this is the way I expected our football team to play all season.
Sure.
And so, hey, if we're gonna click at the right time, here it is. So
yeah, this is when you
how
make
it
your
goes.
money this time of year, huh?
No doubt.
And now we got a little chill in the air. It's football weather.
Yeah. Feels
Coach,
like football.
for our listeners, Coach has a certain glow about him because the Tigers won Friday night and his Sooners won yesterday.
No doubt. Boomer.
We're going to have to cut that out.
Did you say you played Chisholm
Yes, sir.
Friday? And
Yes,
we
sir.
talked about that Chisholm baseball game of 1990.
We did. That's another
Jacob Newby, I believe, shared a picture
A
of
stat, yeah.
the statistics
Oh,
from
okay.
that game, and it was like 53 stolen bases in one inning.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they still
Or
talk
something
about it on
like that.
ESPN.
It was a record, world record. I'm guessing it
Yeah.
made Sports Illustrated.
Wow.
And one of our old coaches, at the time, he had retired from coaching, but he still taught here, Coach Francis. Anytime you'd bring it up, he was the baseball coach that year, and he'd just open his drawer, pull it out, and he'd tell us this whole hour-and-a-half long story of that game, and it was
Well, there was some bad beef between he and the other coach, right? And it
there was
kind
bad
of,
beef between Francis and everyone. But
Yeah.
it was a different time then.
Yeah, it was good though.
But you have a interesting Leonard sports story. We touched on it earlier. That 2013 team. If you could tell us about that season.
Yeah,
and
that was.
those
Is
kids.
that the furthest Leonard's gone?
Yes,
in,
sir.
Yeah.
Football?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Okay.
And that it was one of those years we got hot and healthy all at the right time, and we actually finished the season third in the district behind Gunner and SNS. SNS had won the district. They beat us on a last-second field goal, 42-yarder, to beat us in week 10. So we go into the playoffs, and excuse me, we're the third-place team playing the runner-up out of the other district. Played Edgewood, and Edgewood had a big quarterback that, matter of fact, started last week for Texas Tech. And they had a tremendous running back. Anyway, we go in there and we get up on them, and they kind of come back there at the end, and we end up having to go into overtime, and we beat them in double overtime and forced a fumble to end it. And then went to Coppell the next week and played Blooming Grove. Blooming Grove had upset Jacksboro, and that was a big deal. Blooming Grove come out and they gave us a fight early, and we were very fortunate. We had a little running back that was pretty special, and it rushed for 2,700 yards that year.
Goodness gracious.
And Solomon Ray Titus, he was a stud. And then so we got through the Blooming Grove game, and it was about as cold as I've ever been. It was sleeting and freezing rain, and it was miserable. So then we get to the third round, and we get another district rematch with SNS, and they were undefeated, 13-0 coming in, and
They had just
ran
beaten
through.
you a couple of games before
Right,
that.
right. And then, we couldn't find a stadium. And then one of my coaches on my staff had been at Allen before, and he said, let's play at Allen. So I called over there, and we set it up, and we played on a beautiful day on a Saturday, and we it was one of those things, if I just pointed anything on my play sheet and it worked, we
Right.
had almost 700 yards total offense that day, threw for 280. We were like 17 of 18 for 280 throwing the football.
Jeez.
And Justin Bennett had a great day, and we had some really good receivers, and it was just we clicked. And
By that game, you must have had this feeling that it was you guys were a team of destiny, right? That
it was
things were just kind of feeling like magic.
It was. I don't know how to explain it. Like I said, that group of kids was closer with each other than any group I've ever been around. I mean, they were like brothers. They did everything together. And I think that's really what helped them when times got tough.
Right.
Because like I said, the Blooming Grove second and the first round game, we won in overtime, and they could have laid down at any point, but they didn't. And then then we come out and playing Cooper in the fourth round, and
That was a nasty weather game, right?
It was cold. The ice storm had hit.
Did that help? Did the weather somehow help you guys?
I think it probably had to. They were ranked number 3 in the state, averaging 45 points a game. They were a machine, and they ran the cutback like
Right.
you're talking about, and they had a couple of stallions in the backfield that could go, and we're over at Greenville at their indoor practicing that week, and because of the weather had hit, and then that weather hit bad on Thursday, and then we didn't go to school on Friday, and we're supposed to play on Saturday. Of course, everything was iced over, and we ended up having to play on Monday, and we're supposed to play at Wiley. Wiley couldn't get their field ready. Talked to Royce City. Royce City said, yeah, we can get it ready. So we show up, and there's people in the stands with rubber mallets beating ice off the bleachers.
Wow.
I mean, and the high that day was 26. It was cold.
Oh my gosh.
It was cold, and we came out, and we knew we had to play our best to win that football game, and we didn't get in the same formation twice offensively the first 3 drives, and we just kind of kept them off guard, and played great defense. We took every secondary kid but one off the field. we only had one corner in the game, and Coach Deals come to me on that Sunday and said, "Hey, this is our plan." And I'm like, "Whoa,
That's progressive.
yeah." But we had a lot of linebacker type kids, and it really that won us the game. And matter of fact, at the end of the game, we score and go up by 8, and they come out and spread. They come out and force
Oh,
you.
no.
And we had to call a timeout so we can get a regular defense back on the field. And but it was a heck of a game, and I think it was 28-20. And then so now we're in the semifinals. And we're playing Cisco, and we knew about all the tradition and all that stuff. And but you couldn't really tell how good they were on film because they were playing out in West Texas every game, and the weather was real bad out there. So, it was just hard to tell. And then we played them in Fort Worth on a beautiful sunny day, and man, that's the best football team I've coached against since I've been here. And I've played 4 state champions, and that's the best one I can remember.
Golly, man, what a run though, right? And I mean, what was it like? Taking a historically a program that had not gone ever that far. What was it like coming back to Leonard? And
what do you further on that point? What do you say to those kids after that game? What do you?
Well, it's one of those things. We take everything hard as coaches. We
Sure.
take losses hard, and we took them to a steakhouse and fed them after the game. And some of the coaches didn't even want to eat. They were just sick, but that it was one of those things. I mean, just to get to that point was just unbelievable.
Oh, absolutely.
And it was such a ride. I mean, it was such a blast. And I remember the next morning, I woke up and I'm like, I think I'm as tired as I've ever been in my life.
Emotionally drained.
Oh, and I'm driving into town to do laundry, and that next morning, and it's cold outside, and I drive by and I see a little kid, and his name's Michael Schultz, and he's out punting the football, and the cold is cold, and he'd punt it, and then he'd run down there and get it, he'd punt it back the other way, run it back there and get it, and I mean, it was just something like out of a movie, And
Out of Friday Night Lights or something.
Start thinking about next year, huh?
And then Michael Schultz ended up being a heck of a football player for us down the road. So
That's cool.
That's cool.
How
Really
many
cool.
years in between snapping the streak and getting to that, getting that close to state?
I think it was 03 when we broke the streak, and then so 10 years.
Okay.
In your playing and coaching career, is that as far as you have ever been, or have you been farther than that?
My first 2 years of coaching, I went to the state championship game with Denison. Lost
Denison was a powerhouse.
Yeah, it was, and it was a blessing. I got to work with great coaches, and we had tremendous athletes, and we had Division I kids all over the field.
Yeah.
And lost to Lamarck twice my first 2 years, but there was a 3-year period. We went 44-4 at Denison. I mean, we were loaded.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was fun, and it makes you want to coach.
Yeah.
Sure.
When you get stuff like that. So
You got a little taste for it.
yeah, no
Another
doubt.
taste of it.
So I hope this doesn't offend you, but throughout your tenure here, this may not be fair to say, but you guys have won some games you probably shouldn't have.
Sure.
So I'm guessing from that run, that state semifinal run, what do you take from those games when you know you're outgunned and you throw that away and you go out? I mean, could you walk us through how do you steal a game like that sometimes?
Well, you use that as motivation, for your kids. And every one of those playoff games, we were underdogs. They have a thing called a Harris poll, and they have predictions every week. And every one of those, we were some of them 2 touchdown underdogs. And we just use that as motivation.
You put that up on the bulletin board. You remind those guys, hey, we don't have a chance here. What do we got to lose?
Yes, sir.
Very cool. Very cool.
That is cool. I mean, I guess if there's an ounce of competitive spirit in anybody, that is motivation.
I'm getting worked
right?
up right now. I can feel my blood flowing just talking about it.
Right. So after that, then, what's your approach? I mean, how quick after coming back and doing laundry? I mean, are you starting to think next year and starting to?
And we knew we had a good team coming back. That junior class that year was talented with Dylan Monk and Dylan Pelton and Tristan Farber and those guys. I mean, we still had a good group coming back. And honestly, I mean, had we not run into the eventual state champion in the second round, we might have made another real deep run.
Sure.
We ended up playing Wascom in the second round over at Mount Pleasant, and we scored 30 points on them, and we were the only one of 2 teams that scored 30 points on them the entire year, 16 games. So,
Jeez, yeah. So that's kind of a win too.
They were good too.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was.
Wascom, Deep East Texas, right next to Shreveport.
Yeah,
they
way down
got all those
there.
Shreveport kids coming
Yes,
out.
way
They
down
were
there.
Very athletic. Very athletic.
So you helped modernize, I guess maybe might be the right term, the Leonard football program, and not just the offensive scheme, but I mean we're talking down to uniforms, and we never played on turf or
Right.
a lot of things you guys have now we would have never dreamed of back in the day. You have an
never
indoor
had-
practice facility.
I don't
How did
recall
that come
having
about?
decent jerseys.
No,
Yeah, our stuff didn't fit, and that it's that old adage like look good, feel good. And
Yeah.
I remember playing, and our jerseys were either too big or helmets were too big.
I had
Look like
nicer
the little
pajamas
giants.
sometimes.
Yeah.
My pajamas were better than
You guys are
the
in
basketball
cool
clothes.
stuff, and how does all that stuff
Well,
work?
kids want to look good.
Sure.
And like you said, if you look good, you play good. And we do have some color schemes now. Our helmet, we brought back the LT, the interlocking LT, and that's been good for us. And there for a few years, we went to a naval design where we were gold on the bottom and a silver stripe, and then
Right.
royal on the top. And that was good for us. But we're back to the traditional LT now, and we went with the flat helmet. And like I said, we bought a set of gold jerseys and pants.
Right.
And we call them our 14 carats. And anyway, it's like I said, the kids, they love it.
The kids look sharp. They
And
look
when-
real sharp.
We went to Adidas in 2009, and I brought a Nike sample in. I brought an Adidas sample in, and I told the kids to try them on, took them on the library, and they picked the Adidas. And I like the blue better. It's a darker blue. So, that's kind of where we've been.
What is it like when you were talking about? You were supposed to play in Wiley, they couldn't get the field ready and stuff. What is? How much of that is goodwill between coaches trying to help each other out? I mean, I know there's like money involved and stuff too, right?
Sure.
But I mean, how? Do you run up against people that try to work hard for you, or sometimes people push you off? Or
No, Royce City, they have been great to us. Every time we go over there, I mean, they make nice name tags for the kids and make it
Oh, wow.
memorable. It's a very
Wow.
memorable event when we play there.
Wow.
And that's a beautiful stadium. Great. It's probably my favorite place to play. And I know we've played in Allen,
Yeah.
but I love playing in Royce City. But it's one of those things that early in the playoffs, it's hard to find stadiums, and if you don't have something set up beforehand, you're gonna struggle. But when you get to the third or fourth round, there's not very many teams left around, so it's not too hard.
sure.
Cooper that year actually wanted to play us on natural grass, and I was okay with it. And I said, well, let's play at the Cotton Bowl. And I called down there, and it was just a little bit expensive.
Really?
So, how do those negotiations work? Is that through the AD of each school, or
Yes, sir.
coaches
Yes,
as
sir.
well?
Yes, sir.
Just between you two.
Yes, sir.
So you're finding somewhere common ground.
And usually whoever we play, they'll find a stadium, and I'll find a stadium, and then
Compromise.
We'll flip for it.
Oh, okay.
We'll
Okay.
flip home and away. We'll flip for officials. We'll flip for everything.
Yeah.
So Cooper wanted you guys on grass, I guess, to slow you down, or what?
No, they honestly, I mean, it was just a style of their offense.
I see.
That they we were all spread, and they were all packed in to run the cutback. So they wanted to play on grass, and
Right.
I called him and said, "Hey, Cotton Bowl said it'd be $30,000 to play there," and he goes, "Well, I guess we're not playing there." So,
Glad you're on board.
Very
you have
cool.
to flip for that one.
So
Right.
how much, just from coaching going on to being an AD, how much of added stress is that?
it's a very stressful job, but it's also very rewarding. Being a head football coach in the state of Texas has its highs and its lows. And,
Oh, yeah.
And they're very high highs and very low lows.
Sure.
When you drop when you're not supposed to drop, and it's not, it doesn't make for a very good weekend.
Right.
You just gotta repack saddlebags and come back to work. And
How
let's
do
go.
you deal with that being in a small town? Because we all live in Leonard. I mean, we know people
Sure.
talk, and you
Sure.
got to hear stuff that
And-
everybody's a coach.
Just go pick
and-
those for sale signs up.
oh yeah. Well,
Has
Yeah.
there been any of that? Nobody sticking signs in your yard or anything like that?
no, they. I kind of stay incognito. I'm hard to find.
Yeah, you are hard to find. You're hard to track down. It took
But,
to our 11th show to find you. So
Yeah.
Right.
That's funny. So looking forward to let's see, you got Blue Ridge this week
Yes, sir.
coming here.
Yes, sir.
And what's the rest? I mean, because we're in October now, so what are y'all looking at coming out?
Blue Ridge, they we beat them last year. We actually blocked a field goal twice in the game. They called us for roughing the kicker the first one, so we lined up and blocked it again, and beat them 21-19. and they got all their skill kids back. They're playing real scrappy football. They beat the defending district champions last Friday night. They beat Cooper 26.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, that was a huge win. So they're going to come in riding pretty high. It's a natural rivalry for their kids and our kids.
Sure.
Our kids know their kids and they know us, and it ought to be a heck of a football game. Like I say, they got a good quarterback who can chunk it around, and they got a big running back, and we got a good quarterback, and we got a good run back, and
Sure.
well,
It's going to be a game.
It'll be fun.
it ought to be fun.
It'll be
Ought to be fun.
He's eating Tums right now. No.
Yeah, I feel bad for you, Coach, because you're down there having to coach. You don't get to watch some of these games.
Oh, I know. It's but you know what?
You watch them Saturday morning, though, I guess.
I watch them Saturday morning with the kids. But I wouldn't do anything else in the world.
Sure.
What I do.
Well, let's talk a little football with you then. Who's your favorite all-time football player? Who's your favorite athlete?
Brett Favre. I love
Competitive.
Brett Favre, Howie Long, those two guys. I mean, they kind of sum it up for me.
There you go. That's cool.
I was wanting to get
Cool.
into trick plays.
Oh, yeah?
You run any
Yeah.
trick plays, something,
Statue
something
of
totally
Liberties or anything like
unexpected?
that?
We actually ran a little sweep pass Friday night for a big first down early.
Okay.
We've got 4 or 5 in our pocket every week. We call them home runs, and if we don't need them, then we'll save them. But
Yeah.
Is
Is that how it works? You got some stuff in your head in your back pocket that
we do.
you don't ever pull out unless
We do.
absolutely need-
And usually those trick plays, I mean, they're going to work once. So
yeah.
if you're way up on somebody, then don't show them.
Don't
if you're
show
way
it,
down,
Yeah,
don't show 'em.
absolutely.
Don't
You know,
reveal
just
your
kinda-
hand. Yeah.
And that's the same way. We run the swinging gate on extra point, and we have about 19 plays off of it. So
Yeah.
we don't show them very often, and that's one thing we've tried to get better at this year is kicking extra points.
That's the thing that's plagued you guys for the last few years, right?
It is.
Extra
We
point.
had a real good kicker for a long time around here named Ty McKinney, and comes from a kicking family with
Yeah,
Johnny.
yeah.
But he was our kicker in 2013, and then
It's hard to replace a guy like that.
It is, and I started the swinging gate when I was at Bonham. My head coach over there, Larry McFarland, we wasn't very good at kicking extra points. He told me, said, Coach Fletcher, come up with a swinging gate. I said, okay. So, and I didn't know anything about it, so I started doing a little research. And
Google.
mine's actually a little different than most people's. Most people just put one receiver out wide. I put 2. And so I cover up my center, which is a tight end number, but we'll do some things to motion and shift to make him eligible. But it's worked. I would venture to say we're probably 90% on our actual plays out of gate in the 15 years here.
Cool.
Wow.
Very cool. Yeah, I noticed I've been to a couple games this year, a few home games. And I noticed it looks like you have a kid now that can kick a little bit.
He's getting better.
He's a ball player too. He's kind of small, but
little guy, little tough guy.
Yeah.
Josh Bologna. He's a sophomore and he's undersized, but he loves the weight room and he's strong, and he's one of those yes or no sir kids. And if you ask him to, go dig up the football
Do
field with a
whatever.
shovel, he's going to do it. So those are kids you like.
You mentioned the weight room. I've noticed this. I barely know anybody in Leonard anymore. I've lived here my whole life, but one thing I do know is that you are very passionate about weightlifting, and
Well,
it seems to be strength and conditioning, I guess, that's a big part of you guys' football program.
I'm a huge off-season advocate.
Sure.
You don't win games from August to December. You win them from December to August.
Yeah.
Right.
And and that was one of the good things about our indoor. We don't have to go into a gym to do that at our off season. I mean, we're on that turf every day during the off season, and we don't use it so much now. We use it for a junior high in the mornings, but we might practice 5-6 times a year in bad weather in there, but in the off season we're in it every day. And I've always been a big weight room guy. I think it keeps you healthy.
Yeah.
It makes you more aggressive, and we're going to be pretty good in powerlifting, and we're going to try and be good in track.
I guess in powerlifting and things like that, you kind of find out what you're made of personally.
It's just you and the bar.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, and the bar doesn't lie. So
No.
that's interesting. It's really interesting.
How much does consistency play a part, right? Like, so you talked about like the weather got bad and y'all ended up playing on Monday. As a coach, you hate to see like kids get off days in schools before you play and stuff, just to want to keep their mind right or whatever.
you say that word consistency, and that's been a big word for us this year. And I tell our kids every day when you walk in that locker room, whether it's a Monday practice or a Friday night football game, I want you to be consistently good and be the same person every time you walk out that door. And everybody has bad days. I have bad days, but be consistently good every day.
Sure.
And come in with the same work ethic, and good things will happen when you do that. And we have a deal now. We call it stacking. We're going to every day after practice, I'm going to say, okay, we're going to stack it or not. And what I mean by that is if we have a great practice, we'll put a stack on the board, and then we'll see how many practices we can get in a row that are good.
Sure. Right.
And right now we're at 8.
Oh, wow.
And if we have bad practice, I'll make them start over. We'll start to stack over. And the kids have bought into that, and they ask every day after practice, Coach, we stacking that? I'm like, yes, sir, we're stacking it. So, just little things like that to put that in their mind.
Sure.
That, hey, he's not going to stack this practice if we don't get after it. So.
Right. Well, as a coach, that's got to, and a mentor to these young kids, that's kind of got to feel good getting their buy-in, and seeing them work and strive towards that.
Sure. Yeah, everybody likes to see results.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
James mentioned it, playing on Mondays and bad weather games and things like that, but I've followed since you've been here, and you kind of make a name for yourself in those oddball games. You seem to always do pretty well in those weird day of the weeks and weird weather. And how's that?
That
does that go back to consistency and just being prepared all the time?
It does. And like I say, you talk about having to play on Monday and that 2013 team playing Cooper. I'd have to think that helped us. Because like I said, they were a machine.
Yeah, I remember. I hope this doesn't hurt your feelings or anything. I didn't think you guys had a chance to win that game.
We were 35.
And I listened on the radio, and I was just speechless.
We were 35-point underdog, and we played on Saturday the week before we played S&S. Well, Friday night they played Scurry Rosser at Royce City, so I went over there and watched it, and I know the superintendent there, so they let me in the press box, and anyway, we're sitting there watching the game, and they were just destroying Scurry Rosser, and the person that went with me looked at me and said, "Can we beat them?" And I'm like, "We just need to worry about tomorrow. Worry about S&S."
Right.
And it was one of those things. They were very good. They were very good.
Cooper was the.
They were good when we were in school, and they were good when my parents were in school.
They were the first football game I ever played, 7th grade.
Wow.
Cooper. I was 7th grade. I was 6 foot tall, about 110 pounds, just lanky, skinny, not super aggressive, and just playing ball, honestly, because my friends were. I didn't, I was a basketball player, and we went out there, and I remember looking at these guys across the line, and I was like,
they're all big.
They were huge, man. And they've always kind of been big. So
something in the water over there.
Yeah.
One of the crazy things about that game is a guy that had Leonard ties. Jason Marshall was a superintendent.
He was our coach. Yeah.
He was superintendent at Cooper, and then he had left there, but he wrote us a letter before the game, and I read it to the kids, and he just talked about how proud he was of Leonard and this and that. And I still have that letter.
That's cool.
I'm not sure. Really cool. Have you ever had access to any of those old 1980s Leonard tapes that Coach Jason Marshall was QB?
No, I don't.
Well, he taught us when I was in high school, and he coached here. He was AD and stuff here for a little while, and he would break them out, and we'd watch them, and he was legit. I mean, it was a Stone Age offense, but he was good, man, real good. I liked Coach Marshall a lot. I think a lot of that guy.
Yeah, the 80s were all right for Leonard football. The 90s were kind of a dark period.
The late 90s, we were good.
Yeah.
We were pretty good. My junior and senior year, Leonard was kind of getting it back on track, and then after that, like I said, Coach Marshall left, and there's a few coaching turnovers here and there.
Yeah.
It seemed to happen real quick, and that's one thing I really like about Fletcher's time here is, he's
consistency again.
Yeah, you got several years to try to get your thing going, instead of one.
Right. Yeah. So, oh man, I lost my train of thought. I had it.
I was going to bring up basketball, track.
Yeah, I'd like to hear about some of the other Leonard sports. Track, you've had some success in track lately.
We have, and right now what we have going is volleyball and cross country along with it. We're in a real battle.
When was volleyball brought here? Because that's foreign to me.
That was
as a 2000 graduate.
I think the year I was an assistant was our first year to play volleyball,
which was the year after I graduated.
So that's 04?
03 or 04?
03 or 04, I think.
Okay.
And it's once again, they took their growing pains just like every other program. And right now, we've been a perennial playoff, made our playoff appearances, and right now we're in a battle right now to make the playoffs, and I think we're going to pull through. We need a couple of wins, and but I think it's going to happen, and they're on the right track, and they're young. They only have one senior.
Well,
Cross country, we probably should win the district with the girls. We have one girl that is really running real well. As a matter of fact, as a team, and those kids, man, they come up here at 5 o'clock in the morning and run with flashlights in their hands. I mean, it's
yeah, I've seen them running by my house at 5 a.m.
You're talking about dedication. You're talking about dedication, and Coach Holden and Coach McCarley, they're coaches. Those guys both coach football also, so they have to. They're double dipping, and man, you're talking about a lot of time. Get up there at 5 o'clock in the morning with those kids. It's tough. It's tough, but it's worth it. It's worth it.
Sure.
But
their season's going on right now.
yes, so their district meet is actually Wednesday, and it should be a good one for us. Should really be. It's over at Bell's Wednesday morning.
Cool.
So, I know there's been times, when I grew up in school and talking to other people, some schools are known as a football school or a basketball school. Being AD now, I mean, obviously your love is football, but you kind of got to spread that love around, right? With volleyball, cross country, track. How does that come naturally to you, or do you sometimes get a little myopic on football? Do you feel like
there are people out there that are football only, but
right.
I'm the type of person. And you can ask any coach on my staff. I'm a program guy,
right?
And this is what I tell everybody: when that Leonard bus pulls up, I want everybody to know that we're there,
right?
And I don't care what sport it is, whether it's junior high,
just one
volleyball,
sport,
or Friday night football. It doesn't matter,
sure.
And we've really done a good job with that. 2 years ago, we made the regional tournament or the playoffs in every sport. And that was the first time in school history, and I was very proud.
Yeah.
Wow, that's an accomplishment.
That's big for Leonard.
Yeah.
I remember when I was a little kid in the 80s, and Leonard was good at football, and the town of Leonard traveled well. If Leonard was going to play a playoff game, they were there, and we were good for a couple of seasons in the 90s, and it wasn't really that way. But since you've been here, it's kind of came back.
Well, it's we do travel
I'm sure with some success comes some fans,
Sure.
but Leonard does seem to really care about Leonard sports.
No doubt. We travel well in every sport. You go to the volleyball games and gym's packed, and
Sure.
You go to the football games and there's nowhere to sit in the stands. Everybody's standing on the side, and we do travel well. And we have a lot of great fans here, a lot of great fans that come support these kids, and we appreciate it more than they know.
Awesome. How's the basketball team looking this year?
Should be pretty good. Got several coming back, and we got some youngsters that are going to be really good. We have a freshman that's going to be outstanding, and then of course our quarterback DJ, he's our point guard. Should be really good. And the girls are always competitive. They're scrappy. You kind of take over the mantra of your head coach. Coach Holden, he's one of those fiery, scrappy guys. And so those girls, they're going to play hard. They should be pretty good.
That's good.
Girls basketball always seems to have an intensity that boys basketball doesn't have sometimes.
We hope that we get those teams that play with the chip on the shoulder like that. And girls basketball's been good around here for a long time, and boys too. But they've had some really good teams.
Right.
Yeah, I'm a basketball guy, and I love those first couple of weeks getting in the gym, and after football's done,
Sure.
it's just oh man.
How's the holiday tournament looking?
Holiday tournament is awesome, man. That's it's the best tournament in the state of Texas. We feel.
How many years consecutively do you know?
Jeez, I don't
58.
Yeah,
my God.
I think it was 40 something when I was in school.
It's a big deal, and there's so many moving parts to that tournament. It's a
logistically, I bet it's a nightmare to put together.
It is. It's a nightmare, and we have a big meeting with everybody before it starts, and you're talking about everything from what you send to schools and entry fees and officials.
Sure.
Who's organizing it? Yourself?
Well, no,
I'm sure there's a bunch of you.
Pam McCarley and Colleen Moreland, they have done this so long. That
they've got a methodology, huh?
I don't know if this school could survive without them too.
Right.
It's unreal. Colleen is like my left hand.
Colleen's great.
Oh, she's
great.
awesome. She's awesome, and and then of course Mr. Maxwell played in that tournament. He's coached in that tournament, and
That's cool.
so it's a big deal. It's a big deal, and I tell him, I said, I'm going to show up and be the administrator, and one night I'll cook.
Yeah.
So
There you go.
that's always.
What's
a big
your
deal.
specialty? What do you cook the best?
I just barbecue.
There you go.
Yeah.
We had talked
Okies
about
know about barbecue.
Oh
I
yeah,
don't know.
yeah. We had talked about bringing the podcast to the tournament. Is that something we could do?
That would
Talk
be-
some Leonard
sounds-
sports.
Sounds great to me.
That'd be
Cool.
awesome.
Very cool.
Just have a rotating open mic and
Yeah.
see whoever
No
wants
doubt.
to sit down.
No.
That'd be real
That's-
cool.
We'll catch Wrinkle there for sure.
Yeah,
No doubt.
absolutely. We're not done, but we'd like to have you back on and maybe bring some of those kids,
Sure.
DJ and
Sure.
Riley and some of your girls, and
Yeah, we
maybe
talked about that. If you guys are interested in doing a
we wanted to check
player
with you
athlete
first and make
spotlight.
sure. I know some coaches have policies on what kids can
Sure.
do and whatnot, but we wanted to run it by you.
If you
but-
wanted to bring somebody in and recognize them, weekly or monthly or
Sure.
anything you want to do. If you want to use us for whatever, you're more than welcome to.
yeah, we'd love to help. We'd love to be a part of it. We'll
Get your
talk
message
about
out.
whatever you want to talk about. Real quick,
Let
I
us
had
know what you'd like to hear from Coach Fletcher.
Yeah.
If you want to hear something from him weekly or monthly or
Get
or
at us
anything
on
like
that
that.
Facebook
Yeah,
page.
we'd like to know.
real quick, I had one more question about football. You're the head football coach. You're the AD. That everyone that knows you should be aware of those things. But what are your football duties during the game? You call the plays.
I call the offense and coach the offensive line, and
I see.
then those big boys up front, they're my babies. And,
Sure.
We got a pretty good group.
I
a
guess
young group.
I understand being an O-line guy. You want to pound the rock. You want to win the
Well,
line of scrimmage and all that.
yeah, we try to be as balanced as we can. We like to throw the football around a little bit too, but yeah, we're gonna make our hay running the rock.
Right. Very cool.
I got a quick one for you. Speaking of trick plays and stuff, I'm fascinated by the never punt, never kick guy.
That
The
was
coach.
Wascom, yeah.
Yeah.
Was it-
Well, Wascom did that in 2013.
Okay.
their
What are
coach-
your thoughts on that? I'm fascinated. I love it. I think it's great.
Oh, it's. I mean, I think there comes a time where you're going to have to punt. you know,
Yeah.
before I went and watched them play the semifinals that year out at Glen Rose, and he had a 4th and 13, and he was up by 2 against what was that team out there in West Texas? Anyway, they and he didn't punt, and they converted. And
Yeah.
I was just in awe.
You got
know what
you
I
got to
mean?
keep that ratio up though.
And sometimes, I mean, you got to have guts enough to make calls like that, but sometimes you just got to be smart about it too. So
Yeah, I mean, I understand the whole philosophy behind the don't punt, don't kick, but like if you're on the one, Yeah.
It was
Yeah,
a
fourth and
I know
and
the guy
20
you're
on the
talking
one.
about. It was a statistics thing. He was like a
Yeah.
mathematician, and
Yeah.
he had done all these statistics. And
yeah, that guy's in Arkansas.
Because
Yeah.
it's not used. Yeah, Arkansas is where he
Right,
was. Yeah.
right.
yeah,
Pretty
cool.
One other thing on dumb plays like that. I'm fascinated by maybe a rugby style play.
We rugby punt.
Oh yeah.
Yes, sir.
Do you
Okay.
really?
Yes,
Wow.
sir.
Okay. What about the lateral move? What about a running play and possibly a passing play involving a rugby lateral? Yeah.
And we've
It's
had-
something that I've never
Yeah, you
seen
get
done at
into-
any level.
You're getting into classified information now, man.
Yeah.
Well, I'm just picking your brain because nobody's ever done it. I mean, nobody runs plays like that.
we've
at
had a
any
few
level I've
hook and
seen.
laterals in our
Yeah?
back pocket
Okay.
sometimes, yeah.
Okay, that's
I'm,
that's
double-
exciting.
Double passes and stuff like that.
I've got another buddy that coaches, and I was wanting him to run to design a rugby style play for me, and he did. And he never ran it.
Well, and
Called it the Harvey.
That's like our swing and gate. Everybody thinks of that as trick plays, and honestly, the people that we play spend more time defending it in practice than we do running it in practice.
Yeah, right,
right,
sure.
So,
right.
and that's part of the reason. We're trying to gain minutes.
That's a good.
Yeah.
That's a
And-
good strategy.
And we feel we do.
Yeah.
We feel we do gain minutes. with
I
it, so.
am fascinated by the hand signals and the color charts and all that stuff. I know you can't get into too much of that, but
Well,
how often you guys change that stuff up?
I
Week
thought-
to week?
Every week.
I
yeah.
thought that was an IHOP menu.
So is there really like people out watching for that? I mean, you need to.
Oh, no
Need
doubt.
signals
So
too.
you have to change,
Yeah.
and this is our first year going
Got some
Totally-
Belichick's out there.
totally no huddle. We're 100% no huddle right now, and it's one of those things. I'm an offensive line guy,
Sure.
and if something's not right in practice, I'm always that guy says line up, run it again. Line down, here we go. Well, when you play fast like we're doing now, you can't do that, and you have to rely on video.
Sure.
And going back after practice and
Sure.
watching what your kids say, hey, this is what you did wrong. But you can't stop practice because in order to play fast, we have to practice fast, and that's something that we talking about being fun for kids. They love that. They love that. And when you're rolling and you're getting in that groove offensively, man, it's fun.
Yeah.
It's fun. But as a play caller, you got to be one step ahead. When you run a play, you need to know what your next one's going to be already.
Right.
So if not, it slows the game down. And I thought we were very fast last Friday night.
How do the kids adapt to that? Like Jason and I were talking about it last night, actually. You mentioned it earlier in the podcast, football IQ and sports IQ. And when I played, and I was not a great football player, but I had no football IQ.
Mine is still pretty low, and mine was non-existent as a junior high or high school. I didn't.
You watch something, and I know this is TV, but you watch something like Friday Night Lights, right? And that first episode, the first season, they've got Jeremy Street, the quarterback, in there, and they're saying, "All right, tell us, Jason Street, sorry." They say, "Tell us what you're seeing out there." And he's like, "Oh, I got some Texas defense. They're stunting. They're this and that." Man, I would have been.
That was television, though.
Yeah, I mean, but how do your kids adapt to not now? It's no huddle. You see them picking things up like that pretty quick.
You just practice it a lot.
The days of being a dumb football player, and everybody's heard that old saying, just a dumb football player. Those days are long gone. I mean, this game has evolved so much that you have to be smart. You have to be smart to play this game, and for us to line up in all these different formations, we do a self breakdown of ourselves.
Sure.
And Huddle, it's a computer program that we use. Everybody uses now. It'll break that down for you. And last year,
HUDL.
Yes, sir.
I tried getting a job with them once.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
They said your football IQ was too low.
It sounded like an awesome job.
It is an awesome job.
Yeah.
But we did a self scout of ourselves, and in 2 games we'd ran 53 different formations. So
wow.
and that's
it's hard to scheme for a team like that.
It's hard, and we're going to have new ones every week.
Right.
We're there's some people out there that are good enough that they can just line up in the same thing every week and beat you. But
sure,
and when we ask our kids to be smart and intelligent. We make scout reports every week, and if I see them in the locker, I'm going to ask them why. It needs to be in your house. It needs, it's just like a class.
Sure.
So,
wow, things have changed for sure.
Yeah.
Oh, it's something else.
Yeah, we ran 44 cutback. That was it.
that was it.
Jason was asking about being a scout for you.
Come on.
Yeah.
Could you do
I'd
that?
love to.
Come on.
I'd love to.
What's the scouting process? How do you get into that?
And when I first started coaching, everybody scouted, but with the advancements of Huddle and this and that, you really don't have it a whole lot. If we don't have a game, then yes, I'll go scout a playoff opponent. Like our if we're fortunate enough to get in the playoffs this year and we have that week 11 bye, I'll definitely be scouting a playoff
My wife
opponent.
would
Is
kill
that something
me.
you do yourself?
Yes, sir.
Disguise or anything?
No,
Do you go low,
Funny
low
mustache.
profile or?
I'm gonna walk in with my LT hat on proud.
I always assume there's like
My
some
wife would
disguise
kill me if I
involved.
volunteered to be a scout. We got football on Saturday, Sunday, Monday night, Thursday night, Friday night.
I'll tell you one quick story about the disguise. When I was at Denison, we played Mount Pleasant in the state semifinals, and I was a junior high coach, and they sent me to scout at Corpus Christi, and we were scouting Corpus Christi, Cal Allen, and Lamarck, and anyway, we're in the press box on Lamarck's side, and anyway, they come over and the game was over, and Lamarck won, and then they announced the Denison score would beat Mount Pleasant 48-7, and we had to walk through that crowd with our Denison clothes on.
Yeah.
It was not a fun trip out the stands, I'll tell you that.
I was stationed out in Central California for a while, and it was 2011 when the Mavericks won.
Right.
And I was in a bar on the beach watching the game when Jason Terry hit that 3 to put away the Lakers.
Right.
And I stood up and screamed, and the whole bar turned around and looked at me, and it got real lonely for a minute. I just said, "I'm from Dallas," and people just shook their heads and went back. Yeah. So I imagine it felt a little bit like that.
It did. It did.
So who are, if you can, give us a handful of some of your favorite kids that you've coached, some that were really special to you?
Man, they're all really special,
My wife, real quick, she I think she did high jump for you guys a while. I think she had a record for a while, but she thinks a lot of you, and she told me to tell you hello. So I wanted to make sure that I
Yeah,
let you
it
know.
was sad. I was sad when I talked to her at the gas station one day, and I didn't know that she was leaving. And anyway, she was a good one, and she was one of those kids. She's never had a bad day.
Yeah. Yeah.
She came to work every day with this great attitude.
Oh, yeah.
And she takes that to the classroom also.
Yeah.
So that she's a special one.
Yeah, she taught my my oldest son. She was his kindergarten teacher. She did great for him. It was awesome.
Let me tell you something. A couple of times, my wife and I have picked up a basketball. I'm not great at basketball, but I thought I was all right. I was decent at the Leonard little goals a couple times. My wife is good at basketball, man. She is not sports scared either.
Right.
The first time I went to put a shot up, she blocked it. I was like, all right, well.
Turn my hat around now.
My ankle hurts. My ankle. We're done with basketball.
Not to Niece's house. Well, we got a couple of questions we randomly draw from you.
Okay.
From the
Yeah, we do this for everybody, Coach. We got a jar here with stuff that we put in here, and we just pick a few. And James has 3, and I got a couple, but there may be 1 or 2 that we ask everyone, and we may throw those in after.
Yeah, because I'm going a little different here this time. Last game of pool you played, you remember?
2 weeks ago at
All right.
Bill Watson's house.
There you go.
How'd you do?
Actually got beat by Ty Ashworth.
Uh-oh.
Okay.
Oh man.
Eugene was like, I think it was Eugene. He was like, 1968.
Yeah.
Wow.
All right. Give us the best and the worst jobs you've ever had.
Best job is one I got right now. Worst job was when I was in college, I got on with the hot tar roofing crew.
Oh man, you remember that day?
That was not a fun job. A summer job, I'll tell you that.
Wow.
No.
That is Mitch Hedberg's exact
Yeah.
example
Yeah.
of the worst job ever.
If you could find out, we're going to get a little esoteric here. If you could find out the absolute truth to one question, what would it be? You can come back to it if you.
Oh,
You know.
wow.
Did Dads catch it? That would
That
probably
the
be-
next
Yeah.
well, the next one is, was it a catch?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think that one's in there.
is it really?
It is in there.
Well, it was a catch, by
yeah,
the way.
absolutely.
It was.
It was a
And
catch.
I'm not a Cowboys fan either.
Speaking of coaching jobs, there's probably going to be one open.
Yeah,
here
there you
pretty
go.
quick.
You throw your hat in that ring.
I was wanting to get to that. Your thoughts on coaching right now?
Well, I work in this profession, and I'm not going to wish ill will on any coach.
Of course.
What
you know.
coaches do you draw from? We talked a lot about players and stuff. What coaches do you kind of take things from? Former
while I was
head
at
coaches,
Denison,
I guess.
while I was at Denison, we had 3 different offensive line coaches while I was there, and they were all really good. And with my position, what I did is I took something from each of them and kind of made it my own, and I'm not going to say I'm the best offensive line coach in the world. Some people might, but it works. It works, and if you can get kids to buy into it, that's what matters.
Sure.
And of course, Coach Brown, the head coach at Denison when I was there, he was a phenomenal coach. Coach Guest that I coached with at Denison that ended up working for me, and then we coached against him when he was head coach at Bells. I mean, he's technique-wise, he's a perfectionist, and there's you have to have that.
Right.
You have not everybody can be that, but
Sure.
what he coached, you had to. And then of course, my coaches, man, I just love them to death. They're great.
Right.
They're great, and they work.
It's probably a lot of fun.
It is.
You guys all seem like buddies, and
And when I interview someone, I have to spend so much time with this person, that we're going to talk a little football, but I'm gonna talk about them as a person. That's how.
you're going to war with these guys. You got to know you can trust these guys.
Or just be in the same room with them.
yeah,
Well, that's the thing, I mean, and we have knocked down dragouts in there. I mean, we get mad at each other, but it's all for the greater good. We're trying to win football games,
Sure.
and I usually win because I'm the head coach, but they're gonna.
Their voices are heard.
No
though.
doubt,
Yeah.
no doubt.
Yeah.
And they'll say why,
Right.
why are we doing it like this, So, but I hired a coach this year, and he came in and he said, Coach, he said I've worked at several places, and he said this is the least amount of football I've talked, and I'm like, I want to know what kind of person you
Yeah.
are,
Yeah.
Well, I want you around my kids.
Sure.
Um,
I see your resume, but who are you?
If you don't know
right?
football, we'll figure it out pretty quick.
Well, exactly. And like I said, we have a great staff, and we all get along real well, and we have certain guys that do the offensive stuff on the weekends and certain guys that do defense stuff on the weekends, and then we'll all get together and hash it out there at the end on Sunday evening.
Sure.
Cool.
Is it my turn?
Yeah, it's your turn.
All right. If you could be the lead singer of any band, which band would it be?
Ooh.
Van Halen.
Oh,
There you
yeah.
go. Cool.
Yeah.
All right. All
Good.
right.
Do they have David Lee Roth right now? They might need a singer.
I know they
Oof.
might. I don't know.
So are you a David Lee Roth guy or Sammy Hagar guy?
Yeah, I like them both. I mean, I'm a Diamond Dave guy, I guess, but of course Sammy did his good. So
Yeah.
Oh, I'm a child of the 80s and MTV. And
Right.
David Lee Roth, there was no bigger frontman in the 80s than
Yeah.
David Lee Roth.
right.
Yeah.
Go ahead, James.
If you could have lunch with, you can't say David Lee Roth. If you could have lunch with anyone dead or alive, who would it be?
My brother
Your brother.
passed away back in 2014 of epilepsy, and yeah, I mean, you talking about Van Halen? My brother knew everything about Van Halen. You could know he knew their birthdays, where they grew
Right.
up, everything.
Super
And
fan.
He was super fan, and he was my best friend, and he passed away the night after we played Wolf City, or
Oh,
the
man.
morning after we played Wolf City. Epilepsy, and that's one of those. If I could sit on a park bench and talk to one person for an hour, that's who it'd be.
Sure.
What's his
Sure.
name?
Chad.
Chad Fletcher.
Yeah, we actually played Detroit on the anniversary of his death this year. So, and the kids played hard, and that meant a lot to me.
Is he older or younger?
He was 2 years older.
Oh, there you
2
go.
years older.
Where did he live at the time of his passing?
He spent 17 and a half years in the Air Force as a recruiter, and he was stationed in Fort Worth. And then that when he developed epilepsy late in life, they medically retired him
Sure.
after 17 and a half years. And then he sold cars for a little while, but I mean, he had so many seizures that it really hampered him.
Sure.
And like I said, we beat Wolf City that night before, and we didn't play very well, so I wasn't happy. And then he was texting me, and he said, "Just rally the troops, man." And anyway, I get a phone call at 4 o'clock the next morning that he had passed away. So
That's a tough phone call
I
to
hate
get,
to hear
I
that.
imagine.
toughest day of my life, man.
Yeah, I
toughest
bet.
day of my life.
I have a brother. Matthew's got a brother. James has, an older sister, and my brother's my best friend. I'm sure
Mhm.
Matthew
Yeah.
feels the same. I couldn't imagine what that's like, but
Yeah. Sorry to hear that.
yeah, I'm sorry to
Yeah.
hear that, Coach.
He was active duty recruiter, or was he over there at the in the Guard of Reserves?
Well, actually, his last assignment, he recruited nurses, and
Yeah.
his quota was one a year.
Oh,
Oh,
I mean,
wow.
you got to think.
Yeah.
He told me, he said, you got to think. You got people that have a certification,
Yeah.
and you're
They-
asking them to go to war.
yeah. So
He said, so it's a pretty tough job.
Right.
I can imagine.
James is Air Force too.
yeah, I'm stationed over there in Fort Worth now. So
Okay.
I've been in for about 16 and a half. So
Yeah.
getting there,
Wow.
almost done.
Yeah.
We didn't draw this question, Coach, but we've asked everybody else. What's your first memory of Leonard, Texas?
My first memory of Leonard, Texas, I was married and coaching in Denison, and my ex-wife's grandmother lived in Quinlan, and we drove through Leonard, and I'm like, is this the only street in this town? I didn't know about the
Yes.
square.
Yeah.
We're just driving down the highway, and I just remember thinking, wow, this place is tiny.
Yeah.
This place is tiny.
Little did you know.
I know.
It's a lot bigger once you get here.
I love this place. Even when I coached in Bonham, I left that year and coached in Bonham. I still lived here. This town has been great to me, and I the Leonard picnic and all that stuff that they do.
Oh yeah.
Halloween on the square and all that stuff is
Yeah, it's
just
coming up.
great.
We'll-
Yeah,
We'll, be broadcasting
come up
live. You got
here.
to come down and sit down with us for a little bit.
yeah,
Come up here and
Well,
you'll
open
see our
chair.
costumes.
yeah.
We have some funny costumes
Yeah.
lined up, so we can't give that away. But
I hear you.
Yep. We'll be there.
we've appreciated you
That'd be fun.
coming on, Coach. It's
Man,
it's a
it's
lot
been
of
a
fun.
blast.
I
It's
could
been
talk
a
football
blast.
for days.
Me
so.
too.
Thank you very much, assistant athletic director and coach at the Leonard High School, Mr.
Yeah.
Shane Fletcher.